She has no important committee assignments. In fact, she has no committee assignments. But in my opinion, she is probably the most powerful person on Capitol Hill right now in many ways. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia, welcome back to Newsmax. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Greg. I'm glad to be on your show tonight.
Thanks so much. Listen, folks have heard your name a million times, but I don't think a lot of them know the first thing about you. So I'd like to actually start with, if you could please, tell us what happened to you in the 11th grade.
In the 11th grade at South Forsyth High School, when I was 16 years old, that was the year that Joe Biden passed the gun-free school zones. It used to be that kids used to drive to school. They might have their hunting rifle in the back of their truck. Principals kept a gun in their office. Coaches might keep a gun in their office. Kids were protected at school. But Joe Biden passed gun-free school zones, and we were, for the first time, unprotected. One of my very upset schoolmates brought 3 guns to school in a duffel bag, carried them on the school bus, brought them into his first period class, pulled out 1 gun, and went to take over the classroom. The coach in the classroom knocked him to the floor, knocking away his weapon, but he was able to reach into his bag, retrieving a second gun, fired the weapon, and proceeded to take over the classroom, and our entire school went on lockdown. At 16 years old, I found out very quickly what it's like to be completely innocent, completely terrified, and there was no good guy with a gun. There was no one there but our very upset schoolmate that came to school to kill other students that day. That's a fear that I don't want any child to ever have. That's a fear that my own children have had, going to school over the years in gun-free school zones. We protect our members of Congress with a big border wall and 30,000 National Guardsmen. We need to protect our kids at school the exact same way.
Just about everywhere you go, you cite the number 62 million. 62 million. Could you tell us, please, what the significance of that number is?
Yes. 62 million are the people that should be living their lives today, just like we are. But over the years, since 1973, 62 million people have been murdered in the womb, where God's creation is, due to abortion. I believe abortion is the worst evil that has ever been committed, and we have to do everything we can to end abortion.
Where were you on January 6th during the riots?
January 6th, I was in the chamber, and we were objecting to the state of Arizona. We had spent weeks studying the election fraud, real evidence, reading affidavits that people had signed, risking themselves, perjuring themselves with their signatures. And we were going through the objection with Arizona. When people attacked the Capitol, we were trapped inside. We were put on lockdown, and I made a video and put it out on my social media asking people to stop and not to do anything like this, that they should be having a peaceful protest just like President Trump asked them to do. It was terrifying. It was just like that day when I was in 11th grade, one of the scariest days of my life. And I'm so grateful to our Capitol Police and everyone that came in and risked their lives to protect us.
You know, a lot of us were frustrated, by the way, for many reasons, with the more than frustrated, outraged by the riots. But one of the things that it did, it shut down what a lot of us wanted to see happen, those objections raised and debated in Congress. You wrapped up a press conference the other day in an interesting way. By the way, I want to emphasize you took plenty of questions from the media, answered all their questions, essentially. You wrap things up this way. I thought it was very powerful. It was powerful for a lot of reasons. One of them, about 50 reporters are following you. You mentioned you're going to have some time on your hands right now because you don't have committee assignments. How do you intend, and by the way, I think this could all work out to your advantage, but how do you intend to spend that time? How will your future be different now that for the time being, you're not going to have significant or any committee assignments?
Well, I got to tell you something, Greg. I'm someone that has worked hard my entire life. I've created businesses, and I've made one business very successful over the past 20 years. You never want to give someone like me free time with a lot of time on my hands to do the work that I think needs to be done. So I'll be spending all of my free time that would have been wasted on committees, because here's the real truth. Republicans have no voice. They have no say. They have no power on these committees. It's just busy work to create messaging. So going forward, I will be working very hard to shape the Republican Party, push this party to the right, and hold them accountable. I'll also be communicating with a lot of great patriots all over the country, and I'm very excited to get to work on that.
So I mentioned earlier that everybody has heard your name a lot. Very few people know specifics, and we've been told things about you. So I'd actually like to ask you two questions. I am genuinely curious of the answer. The other day on the House of the, on the floor of the House, you said that 9/11 happened. We agree that 9/11 happened. Do you believe the government, as I do, that Al-Qaeda was responsible, that the attack was planned by Osama bin Laden and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and was executed by 19 hijackers?
Absolutely. Everyone knows that. It's radical Islam. Those people you just named are responsible for the attack on 9/11. Radical Islam is still a threat today, and it's something that America needs to take very seriously.
The other thing, because this was not brought up on the House floor, and forgive me, but there was the horrible school shooting about 90 minutes outside of New York City, Sandy Hook, back in 2012. 27, mostly children, were killed. Do you believe, as I do, that law enforcement, when they told us, they were telling the truth, that Adam Lanza, a very troubled 20-year-old young man, was solely responsible for the violence that day?
Of course he is. Sandy Hook is another one of the school shootings that should have never happened. And if children were protected at school the same way members of Congress make sure they're protected with good guys with guns, then no child would ever be shot and killed in school. And then I'll go a step further. I think it's wrong that these parents are brought out and paraded across the media and used for political gain like they have against me, unfortunately. I think it's tragic for them. It pulls up all the feelings and there's the heartbreak that they had. They have to go through it again, when really we should be taking care of these parents, and we should be legislating and making sure that we're protecting children at school.
Why did you go into politics in the first place? What drove you? What was your inspiration, if you will?
The reason why I got involved and decided to run for Congress is I figured out very quickly that no matter how many times I posted on Facebook and complained about things and asked questions about interesting information that I had looked up, nothing would change. And after watching our politicians fail us for decades to the point where we're now nearing $30 trillion in debt, our borders are wide open, our young men and women may be again sent off to foreign wars, our education system is failing and now training our children in woke education policies. Biological males are now entering our girls' sports, and we're still killing babies in the womb and now denying gender that God created us male and female. I got so sick and tired of it, and I realized nothing will ever change. These people with their campaign promises will just continue to run for office again the next cycle. I'm a very regular American. I talk like a regular person. I've lived a wonderful, normal American life, and I decided that if people like me don't get involved and get in there and do the hard work to make sure that our country is protected, our freedoms are protected, and that our children's futures are protected, then we're going to lose the country that we love, and we are losing it right now. And nothing is going to change that unless more people like me get very serious about running for Congress. And I know there are many of you out there that are probably smarter than I am, more experienced than I am, and I would love to see you join me.
You said one thing, you said it twice actually, on the floor of the House and also outside the Capitol, something about people of faith who are lukewarm. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you meant?
Yes, of course. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk about my faith. I'm a big believer in Jesus. God gave us his one and only son who died on a cross so that our sins can be forgiven. And because of that, that is a sacrifice none of us are deserving of. And that's why we should never be lukewarm about our faith. You see, if the church in this country was doing the real work, there wouldn't be hungry people on the streets. There wouldn't be babies aborted in the womb. And then every foster child or orphan would have a home. And then more than that, we wouldn't be having people representing us in Congress that decade after decade, they cling to power, but do nothing but destroy our country. It's time for the church to wake up and stop just thinking that their job is to just go to church 1 hour a day, but it's actually to step up and boldly declare your faith, share the gospel, and then truly live it and be the hands and feet of Jesus.
You know, I'm sorry. I have to fact check you. I caught you in a doozy. You said a little while ago that you're just a regular person, and I just don't think that's the case. You're absolutely extraordinary, and very impressive to watch you, what you're doing, and I wish you luck and I wish you safety. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, many thanks.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, all the best. We'll be right back. Joe, pot calling the pot a pot, anybody? Oh boy, this is a basic courtesy that is afforded basically every former president, intel briefings, not the ultra secret stuff, but some privileged information. This is very, very petty, very petty in my opinion. Let's bring in Corey Lewandowski, former senior advisor to the Trump 2020 campaign. He ran the 2016 campaign. And oh, by the way, he's got a book, very good. Trump, America First, came out just a few months ago. Corey, welcome back to Newsmax. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. You know, without divulging too much information, just before I came on, I was just speaking with the former president from Mar-a-Lago. And, you know, he said, one, to wish you the best and thank you for all the hard work that you're doing here on this network.
I appreciate it very much to hear that from you, Corey. Not to drop names, but I saw him face to face yesterday at the golf course, and he said much the same thing. But I appreciate that very, very much. Yeah, he's, by the way, did you notice, as I did, his spirits? He's very, very upbeat. He's, you know, he's raring to go, I think. Your assessment?
Well, the media will never tell you that. They'll say it's all doom and gloom and that he's miserable and he's hunkered down, but that's just not the truth. You know, I have the privilege to talk to him a lot. He's very excited. He knows that this scam that's going on, this sham of an impeachment, is only going to hurt the Democrats because, you know, at first he was impeached over a perfect phone call. And now the second time he's been impeached over a perfect, you know, speech at a rally, a political rally, something that I thought we had free speech in this country, a protection of the First Amendment. The media doesn't want to say that. They have done everything they can since he came down that golden escalator to try and destroy him, but he has fought back every day, and most of the media hate that.
They sure do. Gets under their skin, and also people on the left. Hey, did you see this Time Magazine piece? And folks, I highly recommend it. It's from Time Magazine by Molly Ball. I think we have the headline. Corey, how would you describe this thing? I think it's basically Democrats and left-wingers and the media bragging about their efforts to pull all kinds of strings, I believe unfairly, to skew, shall we say, the election in 2020.
Well, look at some of the names that I mentioned there. We're all familiar now with the Lincoln Project. You know, some of the founders of that aren't doing so well today. You know, one of them has been accused of preying on young boys and promising them jobs in support of going after Donald Trump. And the other one of the other founders has a restraining order against him from a woman in Vermont who she says won't leave her alone. And so, you know, this is what we see. And then the third founder, the woman Jennifer Horn from the state of New Hampshire, demanded a $250,000 signing bonus, $40,000 a month, a board seat, a podcast, and some other things in order to stay with the organization. So, you know, look, this is not surprising. The people who don't want to put America first did everything they could so that the swamp could take back over in Washington. They could have it as business as usual because they made a lot of money under the Obama administration, and they plan to do so again under the Biden administration.
I want to show you one portion of that article. Let's put it up. This kind of went viral over the weekend. That's why the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election told, even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-funded cabal of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies, working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information, all to have the impact that it ultimately did. Here's, look, part of me, I'm impressed, and they're saying it out loud, what they did. I don't see the same thing happening, quite frankly, on the Republican side. And some of it shouldn't happen because it's not in the spirit of who we are. But I don't know. What's happening on the Republican side for 2024? I'm concerned.
Well, we should be concerned. The one thing that Donald Trump taught us was it's okay to fight back. It's okay to push back against the media when they have a false narrative. And because he did that, they hate him for it. And so, look, what did we see? We saw unelected officials changing state laws to benefit those for the mail-in ballot. We saw that in a number of these places, there was no signature verification, or if there was a signature verification on the mail-in ballots, they were at such a minuscule rate compared to where they were in 2018 that it was insignificant. And so basically, people went out and changed laws. The heads of the media entities, by and large, all hated Donald Trump. They embraced him in 2016 for ratings. But then when they found out that he was going to push back and call them out for their hypocrisy and that he wasn't one of the country club Republicans, they all turned on him. But what we do know is 75 million Americans voted for Donald Trump because they want to put America first and not China first. And in a few short weeks, Joe Biden, through the stroke of his executive orders, has tried to reverse as many of the Trump policies as possible, and in doing so, has put tens of thousands of Americans out of work already.
So you just talked to him. I saw him. One thing I'll say, he looks, he did not age in this office. His energy is what it was. He is, I think, ready to do it again. I don't know if he wants to. He certainly can. What do you think? What are you hearing? You know him better than I do. What's going on there?
I think this president is going to be heavily involved in the 2022 midterm elections. We've talked about some of the races that he wants to be involved in. Obviously, Liz Cheney is one of those in Wyoming. For her voting to impeach the president and taking her out in a primary is something that I'm going to focus on through an organization we have that's just called Fight Back Now America. And so, look, the president is going to be involved in the 2022 cycle. We've got a long way to 2024. But there's no question that if he gets in this race, he is the 800-pound gorilla. There's a long way to go. He's got a lot of money. He has enormous support in the Republican primaries right now, in the Republican caucuses. He's got an approval rating of north of 90%. And in 2020, when he endorsed in a primary, he won almost every single time.
He is the Republican Party, in my opinion. In Marjorie Taylor Greene's opinion, she was on earlier. Hey, Corey Lewandowski, I read this about you a long time ago. I want to find out if it's true. Were you ever a New Hampshire state trooper?
Yeah, I spent 4 years after graduating the New Hampshire Police Academy on the job. It was an incredible job. And so I'm a guy who supports the men and women on the thin blue line. I'm a law and order kind of guy. Let me tell you, when BLM was rioting in the streets just this last weekend again in Washington, D.C., I didn't support it. I didn't support the protests at the Capitol, and I didn't support BLM destroying police substations and burning down buildings over last summer. So yeah. I'm the kind of guy who stands with the men and women of law enforcement.
Roughly speaking, how many speeding tickets have you issued, did you issue during those 4 years?
I'll tell you what job I had was great. They gave me the opportunity to get on a police boat in the state of New Hampshire and drive around and work on my tan. And they paid me for it, if you can believe it. So, yeah, there were a couple of citations here and there, but those people who were out in their bathing suits, by and large, they were following the rules.
All right. Don't tell that boat story too many times. We've got state auditors who are still watching this show, by the way. No, only kidding. Corey Lewandowski, sounded like a great, great gig. Thank you for your service and your continued service. Check out the book, by the way. Again, America First just came out. And by the name of your organization that you're involved with now?
It's going to be called Fight Back Now America. So it's fightbacknowamerica.com. We're going to go out and we're going to find candidates to run in those 10 congressional districts who voted to impeach Donald Trump, and we're going to make sure we have a Republican majority in November of 2022.
Okay, there's the book and the site, Fight Back Now America. Great stuff, Mr. Lewandowski. To be continued. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, legal briefs are being filed left and right with the impeachment happening this week. Let's go ahead and put some up. These are the newest articles going around, or this is the, let's see here, Trump defense second brief The article of impeachment presented by the House is unconstitutional for a variety of reasons. Taken together, they demonstrate conclusively that indulging House Democrats' hunger for this political theater is a danger to our republic, democracy, and the rights that we hold dear. Okay, this is from the Democrats. Next, take a look at this. Is incitement of insurrection against the United States government, which disrupted the peaceful transfer of power, is the most grievous constitutional crime ever committed by a president. They actually wrote that with a straight face when they wrote it. I want to bring in now Jordan Sekulow. He is the executive director of the American Center for Law and Justice, a member of President Trump's personal legal team. Welcome, sir. Also with us,
Greg.
Dick Morris, presidential political strategist, columnist. Go to dickmorris.com. Be sure to sign up. You'll be the smartest kid on the block. Welcome to you both.
Thanks, Greg.
You bet. You bet. All right. I'm ready for this thing. I mean, I hate that it's happening, but I'm ready. And you know what, Dick? One of the things about it, everybody understands this one. Unlike Ukrainian impeachment with Shokan and Poroshenko and all those names you couldn't quite keep straight, everybody knows the story here. And they've already made up their mind. What are your thoughts?
Me add to the name dropping and confirm. I spoke with the President Trump an hour ago, and he's in great shape, great spirits, and was extolling Newsmax. I believe everybody knows that you can't remove Trump from office because he's gone. And everybody knows, therefore, that the only purpose of this impeachment, sole purpose, is so that they can lay the basis for enacting by a simple majority a law that says that he cannot run for public office again. 323 million Americans can, but he can't. And that's the sole purpose of this, to tell the American people that no matter how much they may want him, they can't get him.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it's about. Jordan, what do you know about, well, what are these guys going to do tomorrow? How does it go down?
Okay, so this is how it's going to go down. The first 4 hours tomorrow are going to be focused in on the constitutionality, again, of whether or not the Senate has jurisdiction to hold this trial. And then they will have another vote. And Greg, that's key, because we saw in the first vote, 45 Republican senators, which was a great vote because it shows that there's not the votes there at all, even close, to convict the president. But we'll get another chance to see that vote. So we'll see if any have shifted. We actually at the ACLJ today delivered a 45-page memo, constitutional memo, just on the issue of why this is unconstitutional to try a private citizen, and delivered it to all of those senators to give them a little extra backbone before they cast that vote again. Because if it comes back, Greg, with another 45 yet again, the Democrats have lost. And they have lost right from the get-go, right at the beginning of their trial. That's what happens tomorrow. It's a 4-hour debate on the constitutionality of even having this trial. Then the next couple days get into 16 hours for each side, which is less than we had in the first impeachment, on the bigger issue of incitement. And then ultimately we'll see how long this unravels into next week, when they will then, the next big vote is on whether or not they'll actually call witnesses.
All right. All right. Dick Morris, what does it say about Joe Biden that he did not call for this to be thrown out? Right? Unify the country. Wasn't that kind of a theme of his campaign? Get back to things, get back to normal. And he allowed this to go on?
He's a total puppet. He's a wimp. He doesn't exist. Find out what the Democratic left wants, and that's what you get. A total puppet. I think that the interesting thing about this is it shows how manipulated he is. Okay, in the next 8 days, let's say, the trial goes on. 8,000 Americans are going to die because the vaccine wasn't there available to them in time. 800,000 people are going to file for unemployment insurance because the stimulus bill didn't pass. And the reason none of this is happening is because they're impeaching a guy who isn't there.
Impeaching a guy who isn't there. And oh, by the way, who the heck is going to judge this thing? I guess it's going to be Senator Leahy, which sounds unconstitutional because he's supposed to be the Chief Justice. Hey, do I have time for Exhibit A? The crazy Democrat statements calling for violence? Do I? Yes.
Oh, yeah, please.
Press play.
It's a serious problem, Greg.
Yes.
It's a serious problem. It raises so many issues because it says in the Constitution, if you're going to try the president, you must have the Chief Justice there. The Chief Justice tipped his hat when he said, I want nothing to do with this trial of a private U.S. citizen. And the U.S. Senate has no jurisdiction over you, over me, over former President Trump, a private citizen. And the Chief Justice let that be known quietly. But Pat Leahy being in that seat, this is why, even though I believe President Trump will be acquitted at the end of the day, leave nothing off the table for this going, not just, they want it to be short, right? But I could see this with witnesses and the pressure from the left on that going past even longer than the first impeachment trial. We had no witnesses there, but a lot more facts to deal with. That was 3 weeks. If you have witnesses, you got to do behind the scenes depositions, and then they vote on whether or not they're going to have that witness testify. I mean, you're talking about a month or longer.
Yeah, Democrats don't want witnesses because Democrats don't want witnesses because I do think they would help Donald Trump. By the way, Dick, you mentioned he's a puppet. I got footage here of Jen Psaki saying regarding whether Joe Biden is going to watch impeachment. He said, no, we keep him pretty busy around here. We keep him pretty busy around here. It was a remarkable moment. I'll have it for everybody
right
after the break.
The feedings.
Yeah. Dick Morris, we appreciate it. Please go to dickmorris.com, subscribe, download all that good stuff. It's all there. And Jordan Sekulow, American Center for Law and Justice, President Trump's legal eagle, right there, one of them. We appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, we'll be right back with that remarkable moment where they apparently, Joe works for them, the staff. Interesting. Be right back. It's getting better. All right, folks. The press secretary, apparently she is the boss of Joe Biden. Joe Biden, the president, works for the staff. So they asked him a question, or they asked her a question, the press secretary today, is the president going to watch the impeachment trial, on TV? Her answer, I think, is very interesting.
Does the president have plans to watch any of the trial this week? And does the White House prefer a speedy impeachment trial, or would the president prefer a full airing of the violence at the Capitol and Trump's role in inciting it through things like live witnesses?
Well, first, the president himself would tell you that we keep him pretty busy, and he has a full schedule this week.
The president would tell you himself that we keep him pretty busy. Huh. How about that, huh? I heard once from a president, actually, a very important person, president of a large organization. You either run the organization or the organization runs you, huh? This organization is running Joe Biden. That's clear. And she just said it. All right, there's something else. Sorry, Joe Biden, but you leave me no choice. That weird story he told that was not true about him being shot at in Iraq, he did it last week at the State Department. We talked about it, but I want to show it to you again. It's only a couple of seconds.
You have great personal courage. I've been with some of you when we've been shot at.
And he was talking about war zones, shot at. I've been shot at. Man, oh man, oh man. He's been busted for this before because it's not true. It was even in a book written by a guy who really likes Joe Biden. Here's what he wrote. He still sometimes embellished his biography. He once said that he'd been shot at in Iraq. Pressed, he revised it to say, I was near where a shot landed. Looking over the record of his exaggerations and plagiarism, I came to see them as excesses of a man who wanted every story to sing, even at the risk of embarrassment. Wow, talking about a biographer who's bending over backwards trying to... And that guy's actually a pretty sharp guy. But Joe Biden has been busted, and they wrote about it not only in the media a dozen years ago or so, it made a book that came out several months ago, and he's still telling the same bogus story to the American people. He did it live last week, at the State Department, not only to us, but to diplomats who work for the federal government. Nothing worse, in my opinion, than stolen valor. Not all there. I'm sorry, even at his prime, he was never there. All right, we'll be right back with one more word.